watching Capital Connection from the Illinois State Capitol.
Governor Pritzker enters his third year without much to deliver to the environmental lobby. He made big promises in his inaugural address, and in his State of the State address last year said the days of utility companies writing energy legislation are over. Earlier this week, a number of supporters of a Clean Energy Jobs Act that would prop up wind and solar energy rolled out their new plans, a 906-page bill they proposed, saying this would bring about a clean energy, renewable energy by 2050 in Illinois.
President Biden has issued executive orders and readied federal legislation to address the climate crisis. But he can't reach his climate goals without state action. Here in Illinois,
CEJA will deliver much-needed green jobs to the communities that need them most, will put us on a track to 100% renewable energy, and will make communities like Chicago and others across the state cleaner and safer places to live. For everyone, not just a privileged few.
We can't afford to let the common bribery scandal and corrupt politics stand in the way of passing clean energy legislation.
Joining us now is House Democrat Ann Williams, who is sponsoring the Clean Energy Jobs Act and just rolled it out this week. Third time the charm?
I'm hopeful that this is the year we're going to get it done.
Yeah, it was interesting to see Governor Pritzker made some big promises to the environmental lobby to climate change, to tackle that. In his inaugural address, he specifically singled out the utility companies in last year's State of the State address and said no longer will they write energy policy. So how do you do that? How do you actually write policy that sets the roadmap, the rules of the road for an entire industry without having their input?
Well, I think what we're talking about is really letting the environmental community and the grassroots and the communities of Illinois lead the conversation. The point of the energy policy discussion really is to get the best deal for consumers while ensuring efficient, reliable energy procurement. So I think we can do that if we lead the way in the conversation. Certainly the utilities and the providers of our power are going to be a part of the conversation, but they're not going to be driving the bus the way they used to.
And that would be a 180 from the Future Energy Jobs Act. I want to point out, because as many in our audience know, the ongoing federal investigation into that and other energy legislation like it allowed utility companies to charge their electric customers higher on their electric bills, and it gave those utility companies more bailout money, essentially, or more funding to prop them up. That was now labeled in a deferred prosecution agreement as part of a corrupt deal. I saw something that stuck out to me in the Clean Energy Jobs Act, 906 pages of light reading there, but it basically said that ComEd is going to be under another investigation, if this bill passes, by the Commerce Commission. A state agency which is supposed to regulate utility companies is going to open a new investigation, and at the close of it could deliver a refund, not just to the state of Illinois for that bailout money, but also to the customers of ComEd and Exelon. Is that right?
Yes, the new version of the Clean Energy Jobs Act has a number of provisions related to utility accountability. We need to make sure that the utilities are held accountable for the actions that they take and also for the actions that were taken over the past several years. So the bill does a few things in that area. First of all, it would stop the automatic rate hikes that have been baked into Illinois for years. Basically, that provided that no matter what the issue was, the utilities would automatically receive rate hikes at the expense of consumers without having to thoroughly prove that. We're changing that in the new version of CEJA. Secondly, the point that you referenced, the ICC would be empowered to review what happened with ComEd specifically and determine what amount of the proceeds that we're making based on these ill-gotten gains should be returned to consumers and ratepayers. So we are providing for a form of restitution for consumers.
Does the Commerce Commission have that power already?
We're enabling that in the legislation. They certainly have the power to oversee rates, set regulations in any number of areas pertaining to utilities, but this specifically deals with restitution for prior bad acts.
Okay, so, and I believe that the U.S. Attorney's Office set that overall price tag at about $200 million. or $150 to $200 million of the bottom line impact to ComEd and Exelon. I don't know exactly how the ICC would split that up between the state and ratepayers, perhaps a refund check on the way. But I do have a question about, so it seems fair and just that if that was a corrupt deal that cost the state and cost consumers, that they would get some restitution. That seems fair and just. My question is, I've never seen something like that written into law. When that happens in other cases, the Attorney General's office takes them to court and sues them, and a court, they have a settlement agreement, or that's the method here. Is the Attorney General's office not, are you filling the void here? Is the Attorney General's office not willing to take ComEd to court?
You know, I don't know. I haven't spoken with the Attorney General about that. I know he's been very focused on accountability for utilities, as was the prior AG. That's a big part of their role. But this, we specifically wanted to address what has been admitted in the federal agreement to have been problematic behavior that was illegal. ComEd admitted to this behavior, and we as legislators, we want to hold them accountable, and we wanted to find the easiest mechanism to do so and make sure that ratepayers got their money back.
Is nuclear energy clean energy?
Technically, nuclear energy is considered clean energy. It is not considered renewable energy. So in the Clean Energy Jobs Act, we kind of phase in over the years to get to 100% renewable energy by 2050. Our first goal is to eliminate the most damaging pollutant, which is carbon emissions from a coal-fired plant and from some, obviously, transportation. That's our first goal. Then we want to move to, eventually, to 100% renewables.
This law would allow local governments to go to nuclear power plants and tax them up to 25% of their entire property tax levy, basically, could be shifted onto the backs of the nuclear power plants. Wouldn't that hasten their closure?
Well, obviously, the primary goal of any energy bill is to make sure that consumers get reliable energy efficiently and at an affordable cost. So that's at the very basic, at the very basis of the Clean Energy Jobs Act. So we are not going to, or we are not going to encourage anyone to do anything that's going to remove those items for consumers. We can't have energy unaffordable, especially at a time like now. We need to make sure that we can provide the clean, efficient energy at a price that's affordable. But while we're doing so, we want to address the multiple crises that Illinois is facing regarding COVID and the recovery that we need to see in terms of jobs. Obviously, the climate crisis is at the forefront. And then, of course, finally putting behind us the issue of corruption when it comes to energy policy.
All right, Representative Ann Williams, thank you for joining us. We're back in just a moment.